Hey guys, it's Bales. I'm here at DraftKings about to analyze some of the best lineups from the opening week of MLB. First contest here was the Slugfest on opening day, 50K to first. It was taken down by DLeapy01 with 210.8 points, and he used a double mini stack of the Red Sox and Rockies, three players from each team, which I thought was a really good idea. A lot of times that's an underrated strategy. Everyone wants to go with a full stack, but that can help with pricing and just staying under the cap. And also, you can play the best values and sort of stick to the players who have really good splits. Um, Ironically, he used Morneau, who was my top value, so I had him in my lineup as well, and he was the only poor player in this lineup pretty much. The only move I didn't like here was rostering Henderson Alvarez in a big tournament. I think Alvarez has limited upside because he's not really a high strikeout guy, so he can give you a really good performance or in terms of for his actual team, but it might not be that good in fantasy, and that's what happened on opening day. So he went 7 innings, 2 earned runs, but he only had 2 strikeouts, so he only registered 12 points on DraftKings. But one of the hidden benefits of going lower like that is you can roster players who cost more. So his bats were a little bit better, and then he could also fit Scherzer into his lineup. So we really shouldn't be analyzing players all the time in isolation and really player combinations. So Henderson Alvarez and Scherzer would be one pitching combination that might be the same as two mid-priced guys, and then it becomes a little bit more equal. Now we can compare that to my lineup. My top lineup finished ninth. I went with a full Rockies stack. I thought that was going to be a little bit contrarian since the Rockies were actually on the road. Normally I don't roster them on the road because I think in a lot of situations they are overpriced in that situation because their salaries often reflect their overall stats with half of their games obviously coming at cores. But yeah, so I thought that would get me into some pretty low usage, which other than Tulo, it pretty much did. I think it was contrarian. They obviously had a huge game, scoring 10 runs. And then I went with Ventura and Teheran, who I thought were two high upside pitchers, high strikeout guys, who performed well enough given how my bats did. Second league here is the payoff pitch from 2 days later. I believe this was on Wednesday. And this was Flagellum, who took it down with 195.15 points. And this was an interesting lineup because he did not stack. He hit on Carrasco in a big way, 35 points. He was pretty high usage, almost 40% in this tournament. But he pretty much, Flagellum just used, it looked like his top values. I don't think that there's any combination of players who are on the same team. But one thing that does is if you don't like a stack in a given day, I mean, in general, it's beneficial to stack. I'm usually trying to stack, but there are times when I will get away from it a little bit. But one thing that it can do is help you get away from the crowd. And you can see other than Carlos Santana and Cargo, he had a bunch of low usage guys. Adrian Gonzalez scoring 47 points at only 3.9% usage is obviously huge. So you pretty much needed Gonzalez in your lineup to win this day. And then my top lineup in this particular tournament finished 30th. I pretty much missed on the majority of my bats. I hit on Cargo and Landon, and actually this was my cash game lineup for the day that I throw in. I recommend throwing that in because it should typically be your best values, the guys who you think are in the best spots. You're not necessarily forced to stack. I think I had 3 Indians here, which was really, that just happened by chance. I think that I like those guys, but I was able to get a ton of points from Casimir and Carrasco, which obviously was the difference here. But yeah, definitely recommend throwing your cash game lineup into the GPPs for sure. And then the final payoff pitch from Sunday, April 12th, J-Top 5-1 with a score of 190.5. He basically punted his pitching, which I don't normally recommend, but it did allow him to fit a ton of expensive bats into his lineup. He also didn't really stack here. I think he had just 2 players on the same team in Pedroia and Sandoval. Otherwise, one thing that I thought he did really well was all of these guys are super high upside. So one question I always ask myself when I'm picking a player in a tournament is, unless he's part of a stack where I'll be a little bit more lenient, if it's a pure value, I want him to realistically have the ability to either hit 2 home runs or steal 2 bases. And the expectation is never to do that, but certain guys have that ability and certain guys do not. And every single player in here, I mean, McCann, Cabrera, Pedroia, Sandoval, Reyes, Harper, Adam Jones, Puig, huge upside guys. So I really like what he did there, and hitting on Bartolo and Carnes obviously was a really big part of that success. But so if you are going to forego a stack, or even if you're not and you're just looking at values, you really need to look for those high upside guys. My lineup yesterday finished 8th, 179.5. I went with I believe a 5-man Tiger stack, which obviously worked out. And then it was pretty much the chalk. One of the more high usage stacks. You can see a lot of those guys are above 10% usage. I really loved Greinke yesterday. And then the 3 values I played, again, I thought were guys who had some upside at cheap prices other than D. Gordon. I just like to play D. Gordon quite a bit. If he plays a right-handed pitcher, I think that he's pretty much always in play in tournaments. He can always steal a couple bags. But I liked Mayberry and Przinsky as really cheap values who had the potential to go deep. They combined for 6 points, so that obviously didn't work out. But that was my thinking there. But yeah, so hopefully this lineup analysis helped, and I will do it again in the future.